This has spoilers. It's a cartoon, not prophecy. You'll get over it. War for Cybertron, Chapter 1 Siege, is a series created by James Barbatano and Drew Hopper, neither of which have worked on Transformers before. Granted, you don't need to in order to make a good show. Beast Wars proved that. But how did they work out so far for this series? Well, you'll see. The series is produced by Rooster Teeth, for some reason, and that quality will show when we get to that. The series showrunner and executive producer is F.J. DeSanto, who worked on... Oh no! Surely he's learned from those 3 literal failures, right? Right? Yeah, you can tell where this is going, can't you? So let's go ahead and get into the sections here. It's written by George Christic, who worked on the Clone Wars, Gavin Hignight, who worked on Cyberverse, and Brandon E. Easton, who worked on the 2011 Thundercats. You would assume with what one would think are good writers that the story would flow well, make sense, and have decently written characters with reasonable motivations. Of course, why you'd need 3 writers for 6 episodes is also a good question, especially when all of the things I said you'd expect for the story to do, don't. Are writers like the inverse ninja rule? You know, one ninja is a total boss that wrecks everything in his way, but a group of them are incompetent? Because that's what's showing here. Why is there a war? Well, because of some less than obvious classism that you'll only really understand in any way if you read the IDW comics. The flow is less of a flow and more of a trickle leading into a geyser. Make sense? Not really, even if you choke down all the stilted exposition that the characters yammer out without really getting anywhere with it. And characters that are decently written with reasonable motivations will not be found here. This show throws you into the middle of the action at the start and never really slows down to let anything actually process. Which is funny considering what we'll be talking about in the voice acting session. Another interesting thing here is how many times these alien entities with a different language somehow magically have knowledge of our common phrases. The word crusade is used so often that it loses all meaning, and makes me wonder if Alpha Trion ever tried to run the Sharkticons out of Iacon to reclaim it for Primus. And the cuss words they throw in there just to make all the people watching it that are my age feel like they're watching a big boy show for adults is nothing short of laughable, and the level of pandering it's sinking to. You rated this Y7, people. I didn't hear any cussing in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so why am I hearing it here? And the Turtles would have more reason to, as they live in New York. That's a requirement for communication there. Or another point of contention with writing here is that Optimus is completely against any sort of peace talks with Megatron or signing a treaty. You would assume perhaps there was something in that treaty that set Optimus off so badly to be against it, but they don't even mention what it is. They don't go into it at all. So Optimus just looks completely crazy, not wanting to actually even talk about any of this. Brilliant writing there, guys. Don't quit your day jobs. Actually, no, in fact, please do. Speaking of Optimus, we'll get into that a little bit further into characterization, but let's go on to the next part. I watched the first 2 episodes with my wife and the rest by myself, because even a woman that can binge entire seasons of goofy anime didn't have the patience to sit through this, and she made an interesting statement about this show. She said it looks more 2D than 3D to her, and I didn't know why until I saw it on a bigger screen and sat closer to it. It's because every single character has a black outline around them and in every detail point filling it in. This is something you see in 2D animation, as outlines give the character form. But a competent 3D series like, say, Transformers Prime, you don't get those, and it makes it more immersive for it. It's just competent models with competent shading that changes based on lighting, as opposed to this show's whatever this overbusy detail nonsense is. To my understanding, the toys were all but scanned in to make the character models, possibly to enhance the play value of whatever kids that watch it. Now, what parent is going to have their kids watch this garbage along with its swearing is beyond me. And before any of you clowns tried the, ooh, but actually, me with the original movie, 1, that was rated PG, not just for kids 7 and up to watch without adult supervision, and 2, it makes sense from a story perspective for Magnus to cuss during the movie, as he'd been on Earth for a while and likely would have picked up on human language. Something that shouldn't exist on literal pre-human contact Cybertron. More to the point, Transformers have their own form of cuss words, or at least expletives, that they could have used from literally any previous series that they chose not to here. That tangent aside, let me get to my point. You ever compare the original G1 Optimus Prime toy to the cartoon? You notice how the cartoon looks less detailed, less busy? There's a few reasons for that. Partly due to it being easier to animate, but also because the design that detailed in animation looks too busy. meaning it's ugly. It makes you focus on the details and little else. Maybe you should take a page out of that book next time. Unfortunately, the obsessive adherence to the toys means the characters don't move all that well. They're very stiff. Robotic even, no pun intended. Except of course for that weird waist bend they all do for some bizarre reason. And poor Elita, she already looks like she's wearing mom jeans. They should have gone whole hog into Prime territory or just gone 2D where they can make the characters move more dynamically. Then again, this is Rooster Teeth, so I'm probably expecting too much. Did you ever get those Ruby characters to look natural when they move? Guess not. Now, I have heard that it was the same studio that did Prime that did this. I can't find any actual detail behind that other than produced by Allspark Entertainment, which tells me nothing, because it also says that Rooster Teeth produced this. But let's go ahead and skip past that. I'm sure somebody will tell me I'm wrong in the comment section. Oh, and guys, another reason why you wouldn't want to stick so heavily to toy design, if Megatron's going to pull out a sword, you might want to make sure it actually has an edge. It looks more like Megatron is threatening Prime with a magic missile attack at an Amp Guard meetup, and your quick cuts have no flow and make no sense. You know, I'm pretty hard on G1 Optimus. Granted, I don't apologize for it, but I acknowledge it. But even with my criticisms of him, he's a better leader than this one. This version of Optimus suffers in the same way every character in this series does. He's flanderized. You know how Optimus is remembered for being a stoic leader that's always hopeful, always giving speeches? Well, that's literally all you're gonna get here. And I mean that. Now, this Optimus already has the Matrix, meaning he has the wisdom of previous leaders. Wisdom that would tell him to listen to smart counsel, or to not be absurdly naive, or to not chase whatever MacGuffin the plot wants him to at the moment. Keyword being should, because it doesn't. Next to Optimus is Ultra Magnus. You remember Ultra Magnus, right? Literally at Prime's deathbed because he's a loyal soldier, willing to fight the Decepticons at the drop of a hat because it's what he's for. Well, not this one. This one drops Optimus after he won't listen, goes to Megatron, almost gets his comrades killed, then dies a moron's death. For nothing, really. It's at that death that we find out Ultra Magnus was gifted by Alpha Trion with the knowledge of Cybertron's history. Wisdom and knowledge being things that are supposed to go hand in hand. Now, remember, Optimus wouldn't listen to Magnus, literally the most knowledgeable Autobot on the planet. So when Elita takes up his position, it's so Optimus can ignore her too. The knowledge actually gets passed on at that point to Bumblebee, no longer the plucky young Autobot. Now he's hardened and gritty and lives in a Sharktacon eat Sharktacon world. Because that's what adults like, right? Right? We're all just big boys here? I could do this for literally every character, but we'd be here all day. The main issue is these aren't the characters you're used to. They're not even well-written new takes on them. They're just poorly written facsimiles that barely service the plot. What little there is. Every character talks in the same stilted tone. Like this. I don't know why they did this. Actually, I know exactly why. The voice director for this series is Philip Bosch, the same guy who did the voice direction in Power of the Primes. You know, that series that was derided for its poor quality, that couldn't even get good voice performances out of veteran voice actors like Mark freaking Hamill and Ron didn't wash my hands Perlman. Nice to see they learned literally nothing. This guy directs every character to talk like they're in a shonen anime. The voice actor for Optimus Prime, I'll cut slack because he's young, and hopefully he'll get better training. Because he cannot convey emotion in that role yet. Everyone else has no excuse to me though. This is just piss poor on all levels. Oh, and pro tip, G1 Soundwave's voice sounded good with a synthesizer because Frank Welker is a professional. Throwing some goofy effect over a guy's regular talking voice that can barely be heard will not replicate that. Except for the guy who did Starscream, Frank Todaro. He's clearly taking Lada's take and trying to make it work. He'll be fine in a short amount of time. Is it as bad as last time when they hired literal YouTubers and couldn't direct them either? Yes, it is, because this is a Netflix exclusive and should be better than this. Look, I know people like to make fun of the original G1 cartoon because it can be campy and goofy, but animation issues aside, they had a lot of creativity and fun in it. This is trying way too hard to be big boy stuff. You can have a cartoon that appeals to kids and adults on different levels. Beast Wars did it, Beast Machines did it, Prime did it, and outside of Transformers you have things like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar The Last Airbender. So why is this what we're willing to put up with? 35 years of this, are we really going to sit here and say this is fine? Because if we are, then we deserve more slop like this. This isn't it's not good because it's not what I want. It's not good because it's just not good. And before some mouth breather with a mint-in-box Diatlas comes here with a tired rebuttal of at least it's something, come over and I'll serve you some cat crap for lunch. When you complain, I'll tell you at least it's something, because that's how stupid your argument looks. You want the next 2 sections of this to go well? Overhaul it. Simplify the designs, get a competent writer, only one, mind you, and get Susan Blue on to voice direct this, because I'm tired of every character sounding like Shonen Captain Kirk. And you should be too. I give War for Cybertron Siege a 3 out of 10 for writing, a 6 out of 10 for animation, 2 out of 10 for characterization, and literally no score for voice acting, except for Frank Tirado. He gets an 8 out of 10 because I love him. How obsessed is this community with consuming garbage? Let's take a look.
This is the best Transformers series I've ever seen, hands down. Can't wait for chapters 2, 3 to come out.
Buddy, if this is the best Transformers series you've ever seen, then you may be blind. Sorry I had to be the one to tell you.
XD emoji. Guys, the trick is to sit back and enjoy the ride for what it is, not find something to complain about. This is the problem when adults watch animated shows. The best way to watch is still behind a kid's eyes.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
I thought it was awesome. It was what I had been waiting for as an adult Transformers fan that grew up in the 80s. All these people complaining. Nothing is perfect, but this was great.
Yes, poorly written, poorly animated, and poorly acted Drek is absolutely what we've waited 35 years for. Brilliant take. Care to go on about how it's great? Of course not. Just consume.
My son and I enjoyed it. It's got him interested in Transformers again, because he said he didn't feel like he was watching a show for little kids.
Stop teaching your kids that garbage like this is mature. All you're doing is training them to be unquestioning consumers.
Absolutely amazing! The chemistry between Alita and Optimus was, oh my god! I really love the show having more finesse and powerful leads than any other series. The character development was also extremely good with references to TFP and TF Exodus. Thank you for such a great show.
What chemistry? You mean the I'll keep chasing MacGuffins and if you don't back me, I'll shame you for not believing in me? Great chemistry there, like mixing bleach and ammonia. And pro tip, references don't make good writing. It's a crutch made by bad writers to sucker idiots like you.
Outstanding. It's so much better than I expected. I just watched all episodes and will be definitely watching again just to process how good that was. All I can do now is wait for the next chapters. Till all are one.
If you think this is outstanding, I'm terrified to see what you think is bad.
As a kid in the 80s, I absolutely loved the Transformers G1 cartoon. I couldn't wait to get home from school every day to watch it. Since then, I have seen various reboots and movies, none of which really lived up to or felt like the G1 series until tonight. This is by far the best animated Transformers series since G1. The story, the animation, and attention to detail were second to none. To the people that are complaining about using the wrong voices, it has been 36 years. It's time to move on and try something fresh and new. If people hate it, I don't know if anything could actually make them happy. As a fan that actually watched it in '84 as a 9-year-old kid, I think War for Cybertron was perfect in every way. I can't wait to see parts 2 and 3.
If you think this is the best series since G1, then you probably need a CAT scan. Actually, no. I'm tired of being somewhat nice. You're a moron. And anyone that thinks like you is one too. And the older voice actors made a statement about the problems they have with these new ones being used to lower the cost due to being non-union. It's exploitation that gutless idiots like you slop up because you're a moron. Being critical of it isn't because nothing can make us happy. Stop being so myopically minded that you get super mad when people are critical of a cartoon. Please don't breed. I know I'm likely going to get flack for this, but at this point I really don't care. This is garbage and we shouldn't be okay with it. Both Hasbro and Netflix have the money to do better, especially for only 6 episodes. You like the toys? So do I! But that's not a justification for this level of maggot-infested trash. I could have easily gone into more detail about the other nonsense this series does, but I'd rather not make a 3-hour video detailing all this nonsense. Want to argue about it? Post in the comments. Want to talk elsewhere about how I'm being mean to this cartoon? That's fine, but you're a pussy for doing so. Special thanks as always to my patrons. If you want to support this old man yelling at a cloud, feel free to go there. Until then, I'm going to go watch a competent cartoon to clean my eyes out. Oddly enough, I wrote this script literally the minute I got done with the series, and just now got around to working on it, likely to prevent further brain damage. I'm old. Cut me some slack. I'll catch you guys next time.
XD emoji. Guys, the trick is to sit back and enjoy the ride for what it is, not find something to complain about. This is the problem when adults watch animated shows. The best way to watch is still behind a kid's eyes. Okay, this is either a Karen or somebody who's really I can't take them seriously.